Hi, this is Leah, and I'm going to go through the first interactive advanced concept presentation. This week is on salt mining. So some of the key concepts that are going to play a role in this experiment are ions and static electricity. So what an ion is it's an atom that has a net positive or a net negative charge. So typically atoms would be neutral, and whenever they lose electrons, they would turn into what is known as a cation, and they would have a positive charge. Or if they gain electrons, they would turn into what is known as an anion, and they would have a negative charge. Then we have static electricity, which is basically just an imbalance of an electrical charge either in or on the surface of a material. So the experiment that we're going to do today, we're going to need a couple things: salt, pepper, a plate, and a balloon. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix the salt and pepper together on a plate, fill the balloon with air, rub the balloon against your head, hover the balloon over the salt and pepper, and then see what happens. So these are all the steps laid out. So first I inflated the balloon with just regular air, no helium. Then I mixed together the salt and pepper. I just put this on a regular ceramic plate and just mixed together about an average amount of each. Then I created a negative charge, aka the static electricity, on the balloon by rubbing it against my hair. Then I held the balloon over the salt and pepper mix and watched what happened. So what happened was both the salt and pepper gravitated to the balloon and adhered to it, as you could see in the picture. There's a mixture of each and it's about even. So why did this happen? Two things played a big role here: polarization and that the opposite charges attracted. So the rubbing the balloon against our hair was a very important part, because when we did that, we transferred the electrons from our hair onto the surface of the balloon, which thus left a positive charge on our hair. So whenever we held the balloon next to the salt and pepper, it caused these particles to polarize. So the salt and pepper, the electrons within them, moved to the opposite side, which gave a partial positive charge on the flakes of salt and pepper, which then caused them to jump up and attach onto the balloon. Now, typically in these experiments, we would want to separate the salt and pepper, but in this experiment it did not. So why are some reasons of maybe this happening? Maybe I rubbed the balloon too hard against my hair and I transferred way more electrons. So not only did it polarize the pepper, which is usually easier to polarize than the salt, but it also polarized the salt as well. Perhaps the salt granules I used weren't as coarse as the average granules. Maybe they were smaller. And if they were smaller, they would weigh less. And if they would weigh less, then they would stick to the balloon a lot easier. So in conclusion, what did we learn? First, we learned about ions. We know that there's two types: cations, which have a positive charge, and anions, which have a negative charge. We also learned about static electricity, which is basically creating a negative charge on or in a different material. Then we learned that opposite charges attract. In addition to opposite charges attracting, we know that same charges will repel each other. So positive and positive will repel, and a negative will repel. Then we also learned that atoms can polarize. So this means that they briefly become charged due to an external source. So in this example, the negatively charged surface of the balloon caused the salt and the pepper to become polarized. So it moved the electrons to one side of these flakes, causing a partial positive charge, which caused them to adhere onto the balloon, thus making our experiment successful. However, they did not separate, which they typically do, which we went over as being maybe a couple factors that were a little bit erred than usual. All right, thank you for listening.